Hey peoples, this is another movie review of the movie Ghost of Sugarland. As always, I want to say thank you for listening, that really means a lot to me. And on to the review. So Ghost of Sugarland is a short documentary on Netflix, and it is about a guy named Mark. Mark is black and lives in Texas, and mostly around Muslim Americans. He seems pretty much like the outcast and like he doesn't fit in. One day one of his Muslim friends asks him if he wants to join the religion, and he says yes he does. So he joins. But that leads him down a dangerous road where he gets super deep into the religion. He starts criticizing his friends and the way they act. He becomes an extremist. And this movie is interviews with his friends talking about how he acted and how he went down a certain road and what's become of him now. And that's the movie. So overall, I will say that I enjoyed this movie, but there were certain parts that were just strange. One good part is that I really liked how an outsider entered into their world and then started criticizing them about their world, because we see this all the time. If you get a foreigner from overseas and they come into America and they have to learn all of these things to get their green cards, if you ask a person born here half of the stuff on the test, they wouldn't know what the heck the answers were. And that foreigner could criticize us for not being true Americans, and they would basically be right because we forced them to go through all these hoops to become Americans, and we as Americans don't know most of our own history or the questions they ask on the test. We are just born here and that's our privilege. And the subject of the documentary does mention that, saying that you guys don't live the right Muslim way, you were just born into it, therefore you just easily get in and you don't have to do any of the work. Whereas he is doing all of the work and doing all of the research and going down a deep extremist path. Another part I liked about the documentary was something that didn't have to do with our main subject. It was instead how American Muslims had to change their way of living because of certain actions of extremist Muslims overseas. And that's including stuff like Osama bin Laden and 9/11 and terrorist attacks. Things like that prevented American Muslims from living an everyday life. For instance, one of the kids' parents told them don't go paintballing because people could look at that as you training to shoot them later on. They just had an eye on them, and I would have liked to watch a whole documentary on how they just had to change their life completely because of a few people. And to wrap up a couple of small things I really like the music, I really like the pace of this film. I really wish it was longer actually, but I don't think the director went that deep into the actual subject of the story, because we could have gotten a whole backstory of Mark, his history, where he grew up, maybe information from his parents, so on and so forth. But this movie doesn't go that deep. Seems like a super small budget movie, and they just kept it in the circle of his friends, and I wish they just would have branched out more. Now the weirdest thing is basically the elephant in the room, which is the mask that people wear. I understand hiding people's identity because they don't want to be seen as being associated with this person because they went down such a dark path. But the masks are Spider-Man, Buzz Lightyear, Transformers, Mario, Star Wars. It's super distracting. I was trying to figure out, was there a deeper meaning behind the mask? Because everyone could have wore the same type of mask or something that just wasn't cartoons. It was just very distracting throughout the film from beginning to end, where certain actions that these people did seem more like a joke than a serious subject. Literally, when the documentary starts, I thought it was a joke. I read the plot of the movie, but then when it starts out, it's a guy in a mask inside of some rubber tubes. He looks like he's goofing around, and it feels like a complete joke. The masks are also placed in pictures that they show of our main subject Mark hanging out with his friends. Very weird, because they would have people with the mask on, and then other people who I guess weren't being interviewed just had their faces blurred. Why not just blur everyone's face? It makes it look less goofy. The masks threw me off. I wish they weren't in there. It was just very strange. Another thing that bothered me is that I didn't understand the whole Mark thing, because one person says, so what do we call him? How about Mark? And then someone says Steve. He's like, no, Mark. Mark's easier. It felt like a comedic joke in a serious moment. I didn't understand why it was placed there, and I didn't understand why they were calling him Mark. They showed his face in the documentary. People could look him up and know his real name, and then at the end of the film, they put text on the screen and they give you more information, and some of the information they share is his real name. So what was the point of giving him a fake name? There's also a whole FBI conspiracy regarding Mark, and I like the path they went down with the FBI stuff, but I don't think it was transitioned to very smoothly. It just seemed to come up out of nowhere, and then they started talking about it. But that's all. It's a short documentary. It's less than 30 minutes. It's a quick watch. I do suggest watching it because there are some parts that are very interesting, and they do make you think about how you judge other people, how people brought into your culture may judge you, what impact you have on helping other people understand certain things. It's very interesting and it's a conversation starter, and I really enjoyed that part of it. And that's all, peoples. As always, I want to thank you for listening. Please like, thumbs up, subscribe, retweet, follow, comment, all those things. I really appreciate it. Please continue to have a great day. God bless. I'll talk to you tomorrow.